What if the damage was done before you even had a chance to fight back? Sounds heavy, right? But let's be honest. How often do we stop and consider that some of our deepest struggles didn't start with us at all? That the cracks in our self-worth, the confusion in our relationships, the quiet battles we fight alone, might all trace back to something we didn't choose and couldn't control. Let me break it to you plainly. Nobody wants to admit that our families, yes. Our own families might have broken us long before we even understood what broken meant. Yeah, I said it. Harsh? Maybe. True. Absolutely. And before you scroll away thinking, another video, blaming parents for everything, stay with me. Because what I'm about to unpack might shatter the emotional vault where you've been storing the pain you couldn't name. Here's the truth no one's been brave enough to say out loud. You didn't get to choose your first teachers. You didn't get a say in the voices that would echo in your mind for years, maybe decades. You didn't get to select the hands that were supposed to nurture you, guide you, or in some cases, destroy your sense of safety before you even knew what safety was. But here's the kicker. Those voices and those hands shaped you anyway. Take Franz Kafka. For instance, the man famous for writing about surreal horrors and people waking up as bugs. That wasn't just fiction. It was him trying to make sense of a life shaped by a father who was, quite frankly, a psychological wrecking ball. Kafka didn't just feel misunderstood, he felt dismantled. His entire adult life was a long, exhausting attempt to recover from damage that was inflicted before he could even spell his own name. And the worst part, no one warned you this would happen. No one told you that the softest bruises are the ones no one sees, the invisible wounds. It's a kind that don't fade with time because they were never acknowledged to begin with. Picture this. You're 3, maybe 4. Just a little human bundle of curiosity and light. Your brain is like wet cement. Every sound, every look, every gesture makes an impression. The kind that stays. Every word of praise or criticism, every moment of affection or neglect, all starts carving into your sense of self. Now, here's where it gets darker. Your parents, they're not evil villains. They're just ... human. Maybe your mother is drowning in her own past, repeating wounds she never healed. Maybe your father is unknowingly mimicking the same patterns his father used on him, like a family curse passed down through silence. Or maybe they were both just surviving the best way they knew how, flying blind and praying they wouldn't mess you up too badly. But let's be clear. Hope doesn't heal wounds. And good intentions, they don't undo damage. The path to psychological ruin is often paved with parents who meant well, but still left scars. Now, this isn't a parent bashing session. It's a truth session. Your parents may have done the best they could, but their best doesn't always mean it was good enough. It definitely doesn't mean you have to pretend none of it hurt Franz. Kafka once wrote a 47-page letter to his father. He never sent it. But in those pages, he laid bare the truth, how his father's coldness, constant criticism, and unreachable expectations shaped him into a man who never felt at home in his own skin. Know what Kafka called himself? A nothing? Not because he was nothing, but because his father made him feel like nothing. Does that strike a nerve? This is the programming you never signed up for? The internal script written by voices you didn't invite in? And here's something people don't talk about enough. Childhood trauma isn't just about what happened to you. It's also about what didn't happen for you. Maybe your parents never hit you. ... Great. But did they see you? Really see you? Or were you just another item on a long checklist of responsibilities? Maybe they worked hard to provide for you financially. Yes, that's something to appreciate. But here's the harder question. Did they show up emotionally? Or did you grow up believing that love was something you had to earn through achievements? Through perfection? Through never making waves? Maybe they never raised their voice. That sounds good on paper, but did they speak to you in ways that made you feel known, safe, valued? Or was your house one where silence had more power than words? A place where emotions were treated like live grenades, dangerous, unpredictable, best left untouched. This is the programming you never asked for. These are the invisible scripts written into your psyche long before you had the chance to question them. Beliefs about love, about self-worth, about your place in the world. Installed without your consent like background software that runs the show from behind the curtain. And what does society say? Move on. Get over it. Don't dwell on the past. As if trauma works like spilled milk, just mop it up and you're good. As if the pain that shaped your developing brain disappears the moment you turn 18 and can legally vote. But trauma doesn't care about birthdays or milestones. Damage doesn't honor a timeline. The truth is, the wounds are real. The scars are real. And pretending they don't exist, that's just another form of self-abandonment.
Oh.
One, you probably learned way too early, maybe before you could even put it into words. The Kafka complex. When the very people who were supposed to love you become the ones who unintentionally imprison you. Kafka knew this truth intimately. He didn't need a psychology degree, he lived it. His father wasn't a monster. He wasn't some villain in a fairy tale. He was just a man who truly believed that harshness equaled strength, that withholding, affection built character, that showing softness was weakness. Sound like someone you know? And here's the tragic twist: Kafka kept trying. Even as an adult, even after writing works that would one day be called genius, even as he carved out literary masterpieces that would survive long after he and his father were gone, he kept reaching for a kind of approval that never came. That's the trap. That's the programming. You spend your entire adult life trying to earn what should have been freely given in childhood. Unconditional acceptance. And I see this everywhere. High-achieving people who feel like frauds, gifted individuals who can't take a compliment without cringing, grown adults who apologize for simply existing, for taking up space, for having needs, people who reach all their goals and still lie, awake at night feeling hollow. Why? Because somewhere deep down, they're still waiting. Waiting for mom or dad to say, "You're enough. I see you. I'm proud of you." But here's the brutal truth. That moment might never come. And even if it does, it won't land the way you hope it will. Because you're not that child anymore. You're the adult now. And it's your job to give yourself the love and validation you never received. The inherited patterns we don't see. Think about this. What if the way your parents hurt you is the exact way they were hurt by theirs? And their parents before them? It's like trauma handed down through generations. An unwanted family heirloom passed silently from one hand to the next because their parents damaged them. Same way their ... your grandmother's depression that nobody talked about. The quiet sadness that filled rooms but was never named. That silence became your mother's anxiety, constant, shapeless worry passed down like secondhand smoke. And your grandfather's unchecked rage? That turned into your father's emotional distance. Not because he wanted to be cold, but because no one ever showed him how to be open. And now you're the one carrying all of it. The grief they never expressed. The wounds they never healed. The needs they buried so deep they forgot they had them. It's like you're walking around with a heavy backpack and lie. It's filled with emotional baggage that doesn't even belong to you, but it weighs you down anyway. Kafka saw this clearly. He understood what it meant to live in systems that didn't make sense, where the rules were constantly shifting, and nothing you did ever seemed quite right. Sound familiar? Like the confusion you felt at the dinner table growing up?
Right.
One minute everything was fine. The next, the room went cold. That was your first lesson in emotional bureaucracy, because the family system is often the first bureaucratic nightmare we ever face. The first place where we learn that our real needs come second to keeping the peace. The first place where we're told in subtle and not so subtle ways that our true selves might be too much or not enough. And we carry those lessons into adulthood. Then we wonder, why do we struggle to set boundaries? Why do we keep attracting people who dismiss us, hurt us, or take advantage of us? Why do we keep getting in our own way, just as success is within reach? Why do we feel guilt simply for feeling joy? It's not a mystery, it's programming. Bad programming written into your emotional operating system before you had any defenses. And here's where society adds. Insult to injury, we're fed this narrative that as long as your parents weren't abusive in obvious ways, as long as you had food on the table, clothes on your back, and a roof over your head, you should be grateful. You should stop complaining about your so-called first world problems. But let's be honest, that's gaslighting on a cultural scale. Emotional neglect is real abuse. Having your feelings constantly dismissed, real trauma, being treated like a burden in your own home, that leaves real scars you may not even know you're carrying until they start showing up in your adult relationships, your work, your sense of self. And because there were no bruises, no visible trauma, no dramatic stories to retell at support groups, you've been trained to minimize your own pain, maybe even question if it was real at all. Let me say this loud and clear. You don't need to have survived a horror story to be hurting. You don't need to have been beaten or abandoned or sexually abused to carry wounds that affect every single relationship you'll ever have. Sometimes the deepest damage comes from what looks on the outside. It's like a picture-perfect family, the emotional desert behind the white picket fence. Kafka's family looked respectable too. His father was a successful businessman. They had stability, money, social standing. No one from the outside would have suspected anything was wrong. But Kafka spent most of his life suffocating in silence, because respectability is not love. Providing is not nurturing. Being physically present is not the same as being emotionally available. And the child within you still remembers. Right now, as you hear this, there's a part of you still stuck in that waiting room of your childhood, still hoping, still aching, still clinging to the idea that maybe, just maybe, if you're perfect enough, smart enough, successful enough, someone will finally show up and give you what you never got. But here's the part no one tells you. That child isn't going anywhere, not until you acknowledge their pain, until you stop dismissing their needs as childish, selfish, or overly dramatic. Nothing truly changes. That inner child, the version of you that's been quietly calling out for attention, has never stopped trying to be heard. They've shown up in your anxiety, in your depression, your repeated relationship struggles, in your moments of unexplained anger or self-sabotage. They're not the enemy. They're not trying to ruin your life. They're trying to save it. They're trying to pull you back from the same abandonment they've endured for years. Not just the abandonment from others, but the kind that stings the most. Being abandoned by yourself. And you know what? It's that child within you, the one who tried so hard to be lovable, who twisted into whatever shape was needed to be accepted, ... They deserve better. They deserve to be heard. They deserve to finally know the truth, that they were always enough, that they always mattered, that the failure was never theirs, it was the system, the family system, the social system, the emotional structure that made survival a priority over truth. Breaking the cycle, it's the work no one wants to do. Because while acknowledging the pain is difficult, truly healing from it, that's terrifying. It means facing things most people would rather keep buried. It means grieving the childhood you never got to live. It means accepting that the people you loved the most, your parents, were flawed humans who couldn't give you what they didn't know how to give themselves. It means recognizing that you have to take responsibility for healing wounds you didn't create, and hardest of all, it means becoming the very thing you needed back then. It means becoming the parent to yourself, but society doesn't want you to go there. Society wants you to smile and nod, to stay strong, to keep working, keep consuming, keep chasing false goals, and above all, to pretend that everything's fine. Because if you stop pretending, the whole illusion cracks. And for many, the illusion feels safer than the truth. But everything isn't fine. It won't be until you face what actually happened to you before you had the tools to protect yourself. Let's be real. The mental health industry often pathologizes normal responses to abnormal environments. You're sad? You must be chemically imbalanced? You're anxious? Let's give it a label. Let's prescribe something. Let's give you a diagnosis to wear like a name tag. It tells you that you're broken, when in reality, you're having a completely valid reaction to the emotional chaos you were born into. And then there's the self-help industry. That glossy, Instagram-worthy world that promises healing in a day. Just think positive. Just manifest better. Just choose happiness. As if decades of trauma, repression, and generational programming can be undone with a vision board and a few daily affirmations. But let's tell the truth. Real healing is messy. It's slow. It's deeply uncomfortable. It demands that you feel all the emotions you were taught to shove down, hide, or ignore. Kafka understood this. He had the courage to see his reality clearly even when it was painful, even when it meant standing alone, even when it made him unpopular with his own family. He didn't take the easy road of denial, chose truth. He once wrote, "A book must be the axe for the frozen sea inside us." And your story, your real story, not the carefully edited version that your family would prefer, is that axe. The tool that cuts through years of denial, cracks through the thick ice of pretense, and finally gives you access to everything you've been holding back. But it takes courage. Because once you see things clearly, you can't go back. Once you acknowledge the damage, pretending it didn't happen is no longer an option. Once you allow yourself to feel what you were taught to avoid, you're left with a choice. And yes, that's terrifying, because it means you might have to change everything. Your relationships, your career, your identity itself. When you stop living from your wounds and start living from your truth. But here's what they don't tell you about healing. There's freedom real, breathtaking, freedom waiting on the other side of this pain, beyond the chaos, beyond the hurt, beyond the years of confusion and silence. There exists a version of you untouched by fear, by guilt, by shame. A version of you that lives beyond the layers of family programming, beyond the limits passed down to you, beyond the damage that was done before you ever had the chance to say no. And that version, they're powerful, they're creative, radiant. They are everything you were meant to be before the world taught you to shrink, to please, to disappear. Kafka caught glimpses of this version of himself in his writing. In those moments of creation, he wasn't just telling stories. He was breaking chains, he was stepping beyond his father's voice, beyond his family's dysfunction, beyond the inherited pain that had wrapped itself around his identity like a second skin. In those moments, he wasn't just surviving, he was transcending, and you can too. But first, you have to be willing to look at what is not what you hoped it was. It's not what you were told it was, not the fantasy you clung to in order to survive, but the raw, unfiltered truth. Your family damaged you before you had the tools to protect yourself. That is not your fault. But healing that damage, that part is your responsibility, not because you owe it to your parents, not because society expects you to get better, but because you owe it to yourself. You owe it to that small, innocent version of you who never got what they needed. You owe it to the adult you're still becoming, the one who deserves to live free. Here's the hard truth about family trauma. It doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It doesn't dissolve over time. It doesn't vanish when you hit career goals, fall in love, or become a parent. It stays. It lives in your nervous system. It echoes in your reactions to stress, to love, to failure. It shows up in your relationships, especially the ones that matter most. It lives in your inner voice, your habits, your fears, until you face it, until you feel it, until you grieve what you lost, accept what was never given, and integrate that pain into your life in a way that no longer controls you, but instead informs you, strengthens you, liberates you. Because when you do the real work, not just reading the books, not just watching the videos, not just intellectualizing the pain, but living through the discomfort, the grief, the unlearning, everything begins. To shift, you stop chasing approval from people who were never capable of giving it. You stop tolerating behavior that disrespects your boundaries and diminishes your worth. You stop abandoning yourself to protect other people's comfort zones. You stop surviving and you start living. You become whole. It's not perfect. Whole. With all your flaws, all your stories, all your scars woven into a life that finally, truly belongs to you. So here's what I want you to do after this. Not next week, not later tonight. Right after this video ends, sit with yourself. No phone, no music, no distractions, no numbing. Just you and your truth. Ask yourself gently, but honestly, what damage was done to me before I could protect myself? What patterns am I still living from? What would my life look like if I were truly free from this programming? Don't rush to fix anything. Don't try to solve it yet. Don't try to forgive anyone yet. Not your parents, not your caretakers, not the people who hurt you, dismissed you, or taught you to silence your pain. This is not about rushing to grace or bypassing your anger. Just see, just acknowledge, just witness your own truth without judgment, without rushing. Without trying to minimize it, meet yourself with compassion, not correction. Because here's something that no one ever says loudly enough. You can't heal what you refuse to feel. You can't change what you won't first name and claim as real. Your family damaged, and before you could protect yourself. That's the truth. Not to place blame, but to make space for honesty, for awareness, for growth. But here's what's equally true. You can protect yourself now. You can rewrite the story now. You can choose differently. You can choose yourself. The question is, will you? Will you continue living from inherited patterns that don't serve you? Or will you take the terrifying but transformative step into the unknown, where real healing lives? If this message hit you like a punch to the gut, if it stirred something deep inside, don't ignore it. Let it land. Let it open something. And if someone you care about is still carrying damage they didn't choose, still stuck in the loop of trying to earn love or prove their worth, share this video with them. Because sometimes the kindest, most loving thing we can do for someone isn't to fix them or save them, but to help them see their truth. To gently hold up the mirror and say, I see you. And what happened to you matters. And remember this deeply. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not broken or dramatic or weak. You are a human being. A person who deserves to be seen, heard, and deeply loved, starting not with others, but with how you love yourself. So take care of that little kid inside you. The one who's been waiting patiently in the shadows. The one who tried so hard to be good. The one who never asked for any of this, but carried it all anyway. They've been waiting long. Enough.